All right, on today's episode of the Justin Prince Show, I have one of my buddies, Cody Hofhine. This is going to be one of the best guys you've ever met. And Cody is interesting because he's a high performer. He's excellent in all the key areas of his life. You know, his business life, this guy's excellent. His family life, like his marriage, is one of those ones you're like, you want to take notes. The way he raises his kids, you want to take notes. The way that he has like a spiritual connection, like an authenticity in his spiritual life, you want to take notes. And then also in his personal development, like in his health and his fitness and just whole thing. This is just one of the best dudes you'd ever meet. And so super honored to have him. He and his son, Bentley. His son, Bentley, by the way, this kid's like 15. He's built like a freight train. And they came by and I was like, yo, we got to do a podcast. So Cody, thrilled to have you here, bro. Love you, respect you, fired up to have this conversation. I'm just excited for everyone to kind of hear who you are and what you're all about.
Well, it's an honor. You know, I've always looked up to you, but there's You've done a lot for me. So, I mean, behind the scenes stuff that you don't know of just watching you and just kind of seeing your life. But then more importantly, we had a conference a couple years ago of another starting company. And I was like, dude, I need your like fire on a stage. I need these guys like fired up. And it was not even a question. You were like, yeah, of course. Of course, just came up and did it. So there's so much mad respect back to you, brother. So
do you want to know what's so interesting is first time I heard about you was I hadn't met you yet.
Yeah,
but it was actually through Jimmy Rex.
Yeah,
Jimmy had sat down with you and you were showing him basic coaching and courses and all this kind of stuff that you were doing. You guys had a lunch or whatever it was.
Yep.
And it super like kind of like opened up his mind. It kind of fired him up. He's like, oh, what's possible? And like here we are, however many years later, the ripple effect of that inspiration you gave him, and you know some of the things he's done in his life and his career. And then when I finally met you, I think we met up in Park City at like a networking mastermind event.
Yeah, it was someone playing a guitar that was on American Idol or something. Do you remember this?
It's one of those like it's like not an A-list celebrity, it's like a E-list celebrity. You know,
me and Wendy were sitting on the fireplace by ourselves. Yeah. We didn't know anyone.
Yeah,
but that's when we connected.
So let me share this, my friends. One thing that you want to ask yourself is what kind of energy are you showing up with in your life? Like what kind of energy are you impacting rooms with? Cody shows up with just this. He just has this big energy, and it's super authentic to him, right? You have to find the energy that's authentic to you, but he has this big energy where when he shows up, you know. And when I met you in Park City, that's one of the very first things I know. And obviously Wendy, I mean, come on, her smile lights up the room. She's
the better one to recognize.
No, she's special. And so when I saw you guys go up there, and then you're just this big energy, I was like, man, I got to get to know these guys. I came over to your office, and anyway, I'm excited for us to dive in because I think that you're really excellent in all these key areas of your life. And, you know, my mentor used to say, success will not attack you. In other words, this stuff just doesn't happen on accident, right? There's patterns and mindsets and philosophies that get there. So let's just start with career. Walk us through some of those early days of your career. And I want to get into what you're doing now. You're doing some really interesting and really big things now. Yeah. You've made a huge dent in the real estate world. If you guys have ever heard of wholesaling in real estate, I mean, Cody's just built this incredible, background in the wholesaling world. But walk us through career. Let's start there, and let's get into today. And I want to get into personal development. I want to get into family.
Sure.
I want to get into faith. The whole thing that you're all about.
Go like today career or like how this journey started.
Yeah.
How it all started was working for an incredible dad who was an entrepreneur. That would play hard or work hard, but play harder. And so I got to see a guy that got to run his own calendar. Now, as kids, we don't know that. It's like, oh man, look what was he doing? He gets to work his own calendar. He was doing general construction. So all the RC Willys, he built all those.
Interesting.
And so he used to do all the remodels. Then Warren Buffett bought it in 98. And from there, it was just like, money was there. And it's like, okay, let's go build one in Boise, Idaho. So we'd go live for 4 months and build these stores, and the exterior would be done. We'd do all the interior. And then they're like, okay, let's go down to Henderson, Las Vegas, Summerlin, Las Vegas, Reno, Sacramento. And so we'd go for 4 months and we'd build out these stores. Do you think
some of your people skills came from those moves?
I don't know, because me and my brother we've worked for the same dad. So you shared a post actually that was really like catches both sides, other than one was like, it's not this extreme what you're saying, but like how you can see two perspectives.
Yeah.
One dad in prison doing drugs, one kid follows that, the other kid doesn't. Now that's not the case in this story, but no, my brother's more of like the introvert, like very, he's the methodical, like there to listen, bring in, but no. So no, I to answer, I don't know. I don't know if that is
almost inherent a little
Yeah,
bit.
like Jim Rohn, he calls it the mysteries of the mind. I don't know other way to name it. Like, it's just one of those mysteries of the mind. I don't know, but I've always had this like outgoing, could connect with anyone, love to try every single sport versus all in on one sport. It was kind of like, and like daughter Kenley, you know her, she's the same way. She's like, she's good at whatever she touches. And she also happens to be this super bubbly, outgoing personality too.
Yeah. So working for Pops, you know what's interesting is I tease my dad and I tease people. I think my dad's passed the statutes of limitations for breaking child labor laws. When I was 8 years old, my dad worked, he did land development, home building. When I was 8 years old, he would drop me off at his subdivisions out in like wherever, West Valley, Utah. I remember one specifically. And he would drop me off as an 8-year-old, pick me up about 5:30, give me some cash to buy from the trucks that drive by everyone buys a little bit of candy bars, or sandwiches.
Sure.
But I learned work ethic. Like I was what they called the gopher. Go for this, go for that, go for this. I'd sweep out the houses. I'd like pick up those spare lumber, but just learning how to work.
Sure.
And that example, and he'd pay me some cash and pick me up, drive me home. And that work ethic was instilled in me as a kid. And it sounds like you had a similar experience. Your pop's like, yo, you're going to learn how to work,
8 years old, I was on the job site, but it's a little bit different. It's like pick up the nails and screws and you get a penny per nail. And we dump the bucket and pick them up again. And like,
I love that.
We did that. And so it got to the point by 10 years old, my dad had me painting like rooms on his job site. And it would start with like learning how to tape off and mask off. But then it got to the point where he's like, okay, Cody, like this is now, you got to do it with speed. So we don't have time to tape off. You're going to learn how to be so good that you can cut in from the wall to the ceiling 2 different colors where you can paint the wall, but it doesn't get on the ceiling.
And you were 10 and 11 years old this
10, 11, 12 years old. Like this is like, well, by the time I was cutting in, it's like with freehand, it's 12 years old, 13 years old. But yeah, I had to start by 10 and you just made mistakes. And he wouldn't come in and say, dude, that looks awful. He'd come in and say, hey, you got a little bit of paint up here. So when you're done doing this wall, like touch up this. And he let us like fell our way forward. You know John Maxwell. You quote him a lot. I love John Maxwell. And he has a book. I think one of his written and sold books was Fell Forward, right? I didn't know these concepts, but now hindsight, I look at him like, my dad was a genius. Like he literally just let us kind of fell forward and we just made mistakes on the job site, but it wasn't like high-end homes. It was like warehouses. And so he's like, if you mess up, you mess up. You just paint again. And so he was really a genius in the fact of letting us mess up and make our first mistakes under loving conditions versus the harsh world or making decisions in a big decisions under no care and you have to like face the consequence. Like he let us fail in front of him and he'd help us through it.
Okay, I want to hear your thoughts on this. So I train salespeople, but I think this is applicable across life. Okay, right? To train salespeople, there's 3 things you have to have: work hard. Okay. Because in sales, the law of averages, like if you can close 9 out of 10, I close 1 out of 10, I can still win because I can talk to 100 and close 10. You talk to 10 and close 9. Yes. So the law of averages can kick in if I'm willing just to outwork everybody else. Correct. Right. Second thing would be attitudes. In other words, I work hard and I have a smile on my face and I'm happy and I'm a positive guy. People will buy from me because they like you. Yes. And then third would be skills. So you actually learn the skills. So what I want to hear is your thoughts on work ethic. Like when I look at a lot of, I'm not even gonna call it the next generation. I look at a lot of our generation. They don't know how to put in an honest day's work. Like maybe they're there, like they're at the job, but they're not emotionally there, or they're there, but they're underperforming. Are you with me? Yes. I want to hear your thoughts on work, like what you're teaching your kids, the importance of work ethic. Do you feel like, are you seeing it in your career that people are like, they don't know how to work anymore? Or how are you instilling work ethic? It was obviously instilled into you. How are you instilling it into this, like the next generation? I try to bring them on everything I can. Hence why Bentley's here today. Yeah. Like to me, this is better school than school. So 100%. He's not in school today, and I'm fine with that. And he's 100%. Down here and he's getting the school of life. Like this is, and I've asked him every time we've left, I'm like, hey, what'd you learn from that last podcast? And he gives me a breakdown. I'm like, what'd you learn from this podcast? And it's great for him to hear. It takes a village to raise these kids. And so I was really excited what was just 2 podcasts. Then you lined me up with another one. I was like, Bentley, you're coming. Like you're going to be around a guy named Justin Prince. Like he's a good dude. like I'm excited for him to for you to hear what he has to say, because you set out another post, right? One of the most viral things you've ever done was tell this kid something against maybe his dad's will, maybe not, who knows? No, yeah, his dad was cool with it, but it was, I leave in the gym and this kid was there and he was in trouble with his dad. And when I walked out, I kind of flipped around and I said to him, I said, said, hey, what's your name? What's up? I said, do you mind if I give you some advice? He's 14. He goes, yeah, what's up? And I said, your dad told me you're in trouble. And I said, I don't even care what you did, bro, to be honest with you. I said, I probably did a bunch of stupid stuff when I was 14 too.
Both of us. And
I said, can I just give you some advice? He goes, sure. And I go, you are not what you did. You are what you repeatedly do. I said, listen, we all make mistakes. We all aren't our best self all the time. I did a bunch of stupid stuff when I was 14 too. I said, but you want to build good habits so that you don't repeatedly do it. Because at some point, you are what you repeatedly do.
Sure.
And he goes, thanks, bro. Gave him bones. Walked out. Anyway, so I did it on a podcast. I was sharing that story. And like somehow people were like, you couldn't talk to those kids. Like, what the heck? And I was like, what the heck? So, but I agree with you. It takes a village. Remember when we were in San Diego with Isaac, my son?
I do.
I would ask you questions specifically so that you would mentor Isaac, or Isaac would ask me questions. I'd say, Cody, tell him what your take is. Because I wanted him to hear your perspective and your wisdom. I wanted him to hear from someone else to validate their way of looking at the world.
Yeah. That's exactly why Bentley's down here. It's like, how do we hear another voice? Yep. I mean, you hear it scripturally where it's like by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, right? Shall the word be established. It's like Christ needed disciples. Christ didn't go out and baptize and convert everyone by himself. He even needed a team. Like he needed more voices to support what he was saying. So people would be like, I get it. It's not just this guy. It's now this guy, and this guy saying the exact same thing. Let's look into this.
Yeah.
So I love when he gets to be around good people. And so I did that with Kenley. I took her down to Tampa last year and I spoke on stage and I look out and I'm like, can we get a mic? I'd love to have Kenley come up here for a second. Kenley comes up and I said, what's the Hofhine family motto? And she spits this Hofhine family motto off. And the people are just like,
by the way, how old is she at this point?
She was 12.
This video.
12 years old. 12 years old.
Can you verbatim remember from memory? Can you share it from memory?
Like what the Hofhine family motto is? No, not even as good as her. She would spit it off in 2 seconds because I will just quote it. But yeah, I have an actual picture of it on my phone that I could read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she read it off and the crowd was just like, oh, like this family is intentional about what they do. It's not just going through life. And that's what I hope I'm doing. And if there's anything that your guests get out of this, that I've witnessed a guy that has a life of intent, why you're able to go where you've gone, the heights you've been able to accomplish. Do you know how many lifetimes people would try to do that and they can't do it? Intent. I love that word John Maxwell uses all the time. I have a mentor of mine named Warren Rustan, all about intentional. Intentional leads the clarity of purpose. Like it gives you the clarity to go out and now act when you have that intent.
Yes.
So I try my best. Am I perfect? Far from it. But I love the quote from Jim Rohn, you're the average of the 5 closest individuals you spend the most time with. I would add to what maybe Jim Rohn forgot is if one of them's God, that average goes up significantly. And so if you can just surround yourself with good people, why am I honored to be here? I look at this as I get an hour to sit with Justin Prince and be around a good dude. Like I love this.
I love that, dude.
There's power behind that quote.
One of the things I would say with you is intentional.
Yeah.
I kind of said it as we were kind of getting started. You are intentional with your fitness. You are intentional with your faith. I have a chapter in my book. My book, Be the One, I have a chapter from John. There's 4 words. He said it changed my life forever. He says, it was in Costa Rica. He's up on a stage. There's a bunch at a college. So these kids are, let's call it 18 to 22, right? And he said, if there's only one thing I could share with you that have the most impact in your life, it'd be this one thing. And all the kids get out their notes. He kind of goes to the other stage and makes this kind of dramatic pause. And he says, live an intentional life. He said, most people have uphill hopes and downhill habits. And he said, you don't accidentally go up hills. He said, all success is all uphill all the way, and you only intentionally go up hills.
That's right.
So you want to live an intentional life. And one of the questions I like to ask people I work with is, how intentional are you right now in your business? Like meaning KPIs, habits, routines, patterns, like the things that are driving the business. How intentional are you with your health? Like what is a fitness goal you have right now? What is a body fat goal or a muscle goal or a calorie goal or macro goal? How intentional are you right now with your marriage? Are you just kind of like going through the motions of it? Or are you actually like, no, I'm intentionally working on this or I'm intentionally trying to do that with your kids?
Yeah.
Like that interaction you do get.
Yeah.
Is that hey kid, I was in school? Or is it like a 15-second hug, like dad loves you, kind of thing. So just getting intentional. And most people live in a world of reaction to all the distractions versus a world of intentional creation. Yeah. And that's one of the things that you're a master at is even the family motto. Yeah. That's not an accident.
No, that came together with family.
Yeah,
like that
exactly.
was all of us building that.
Of course.
one thing, like I say, it's little things. It's not big things. So if someone says, "Man, what big things you're doing?" It's not big things. It's being consistent in those little things. Bentley, every game day, I don't know if he recognizes this or not. We take him to lunch. He recognizes that. We go out to lunch before game day. Me, Wendy, and we just sit there with him. And I don't know if he knows this, but I leave my phone. It's not even with me because that's a distraction. I don't want to be distracted. So what I have is like our victory paragraph. So if you can think about a victory paragraph, I use this all the time, and I use this multiple times throughout the day. I'll write a victory paragraph. How do I want this lunch date to be with Bentley? And so I'll write a victory paragraph. When I go to Bentley, I'm going to leave my phone in the car. When I go with Bentley, I'm going to ask how he's doing. I'm going to, whatever it is. And I write this victory paragraph. So I'm already living like what it's going to be, so that when I'm there, it's just act. It's like I'm getting out of the truck and I'm like, oh, stay here. You're not going with me. The phone's staying. And then when you go in, it's giving a big hug. It's now having those questions that I pre-paragraph that I do, my victory paragraph. So I use that multiple times. Like when I go into a meeting, it's okay, how do I want people to feel about this? Because from my side, Mark is like the tactical side. You know Mark.
Mark's your partner.
He's like, he's like the tactical, like he knows how to put the KPIs and stuff. Me, I'm like, like it just doesn't connect with me. But what I can do is shift and change the energy for the better in the room. And so like, how do I change the energy in this room? How do I get them to buy into this vision or make sure that they understand the vision so that they go out and just manage themselves? So I don't have to manage them. I just want them so fired up about my mission, my vision, that they're so fired up themselves that they manage themselves and they just come back and say, hey, I did it. Here's what I did. So I just write victory paragraphs in everything I do. How do I want date night to be? I write a victory paragraph about how I want date night to look. And then it's so much easier to act upon it because I've already thought through it before I even happened.
Where did you get that concept? Like
Robin Sharma.
Victory was it?
Yeah.
Robin Sharma.
He's been a dear friend and a mentor of mine.
He does such a good job.
I love that guy. I spent 4 days with him in Barcelona. And I'm telling you, like Justin, it's like I get chills.
No, he's special.
He is an incredible human being.
Yes.
And so I learned many of the things I implement today is Robin Sharma.
I love that.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he does such a good job. I went on like a multi-year, every single morning. I'm weird this way. I'll go deep on subjects.
I don't think that's weird.
Deep on people. I went deep, just to give you an example of how weird this is. I went deep on the Cuban Missile Crisis. Right, so JFK, Khrushchev, like the missiles are in Cuba, the whole world's on the brink.
Yep.
Like I studied that, read every book there was on it, whenever YouTube.
Because that was seconds away from blowing up the United States.
The whole world almost ended.
Correct.
So I just think it's fascinating. Like, what was the leadership lessons? How did they handle it? How did they handle the pressure, the stressful thing? But anyway, I went deep on Sharma for years. I just think the guy's off the charts.
Yeah.
So that is so cool. So that intention. The other thing is, let me ask you this: like, one of the philosophies I teach and live by is that success is an identity process, and you'll never outperform the way you see yourself. So in other words, if you see yourself as a loser, you're not going to show up and play like a winner. If you see yourself as a winner, you're not going to roll over and quit like a loser.
That's right.
Where did you start to recognize and gain awareness of this identity that, like, yo, I'm kind of a little bit of the energy guy. I'm like the vision guy. I'm like I can change the way people feel, because that is one of this unique giftings that you have. And a gifting doesn't mean that you haven't worked hard to hone it.
Yeah.
But there's some innate gifting in there. At what stage of your life did you start to be like, I think that's, like my gift is energy? Like, when did it become aware for you, and how did you lean into it?
So I always wondered how I'd monetize it. I think like attracts like. And so it was what I was attracted to first and foremost. And I think we're attracted to what are those gifts. So if you think of the people, the gifts that you have, and the special talents you have, now think of the people in your life and see if there's a connection. You'll see a connection. I loved Tony Robbins, and I loved how he could like change my energy and just that deep voice and like just get you to change. And I was just like, man, I love this. Like, that's what if like money was a non-issue and there was something I'd do, I'd be doing what Tony Robbins is doing. Like, I just love that motivational / add the action to it, not just motivation. Cause I don't think motivation's everything, but when you can motivate and then give them action plan to do it, that's what I loved. It was just, I loved watching those people. And so then when you go through entrepreneurship, like, you fail a lot. Like you go out there and you're crossing paths with your business partner, and no, I'm the visionary. No, I'm supposed to be the visionary. And you're just kind of like trying to figure out where you're going in the world. And then it wasn't but more than maybe 4 years ago, I was like, do you know where my spot is? My spot is to keep the team so fired up to keep moving forward with the vision. Like, I'm not the nuts and bolt guy. In fact, I'm far from it. I have to be reminded. I have an assistant, an executive assistant that straight up tells me, hey, your 2 o'clock's in 10 minutes. This is what you have to do. Like, that's how I'm not unorganized. It's just my brain just, it works different than anyone else. Like, some people have the same brain as mine. It's always going. It doesn't stop. And so I have to have some measures in place to keep it in place. But when it's time to like you on a stage, I get to see exactly like those feelings that I get when I get to talk to someone and build them up. I can go talk to people about God that may not even know who God is. And I have such a comfort level with them. And then all of a sudden they're like, man, like, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. Like, I unapologetically share my values, my faith, my beliefs. Mark's like, hey, this is going to be a hard message. You get away with anything that, however you say it, you always get away with it. I'm like, because they know I love them. Like, I'm not fake. I love them genuinely. So whatever I'm going to say, they also know I'm saying it because I absolutely care about them.
Let's go back to attention with Tony, because there's a great story of setting an intention when you first met Tony. Yeah. You met him at a room where there's a bunch. It's an intimate room, but everyone in the room is really a high performer.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So everyone's awesome. That's right. Basically. And it's really intimate.
And way bigger players than I was.
By the way, how big was the
small guy in that room?
How many folks?
There's 50 of us.
Okay, 50.
Yeah.
50 in the room. All of them are successful in their own right.
Yeah.
And you set a very specific intention to basically say, how do I show up and add value to Tony?
Yeah.
And how do I show up and stand out to Tony amongst all these people?
Yeah.
Share that story. So
we all have needs, and some of them are different. Tony doesn't have a need for money, so I can't buy him a gift that says that the guy does $5 billion, $6 billion a year. He doesn't need gifts, right? So I wanted to just stand out, make something different amongst the crowd. And the crowd was small enough, but what I did is I got there before everyone. I was the first one in the door, and to my blessing was they had the table set up and they had everyone's name on it, and I saw where Tony's was, so I sat on the table right behind him. And so I was like, this is fantastic. I'm going to just sit right here and coincidentally turn my chair, and I'm going to be the first person he speaks to when it's time to speak. So he turns around and I'm the first person. I've already written this in my head. This is how it's going to go. And what I did is I wanted something that would connect with him, that would mean a lot to him. Jim Rohn was his mentor. And so I bought Leading an Inspired Life. It's my favorite Jim Rohn book. I study it often because it's just like bite size. Every concept is like 2 pages, no longer than 3 pages. So I'm able to like read it in 5 minutes and then sit there every morning and spend another 10 minutes like just thinking about it and how to implement it and how to put it in my life. So I wrote my story on the inside of it and just said how he plays a role in changing my life, and Jim Rohn adds to it as well. But anyways, it's one of my favorite pictures. And I went up to him and I said, hey, Tony, I've got something for you. It wasn't like
I need something
ask
from you.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
It was just, I got something for you. And he silenced everyone that's like trying to get his attention. And he comes over and puts his arm around me, and he's just this heavy arm. He's a big guy. I mean, his hand just covered my whole chest. And I said, you've really changed my life, and I want you to know that. And you know when there's a good connection, you feel it. And so we're both feeling it. And I give him this book, and I said, Jim Rohn was a big influence in your life, and he's in my life as well, but also you. Like, because you did the work to learn from him and then now teach me, I said, I'm forever grateful for that. And he just put his arm around me, and then he hugs me, and he pulls me like cheek to cheek. And I'm telling you, he's a big dude. He pulls me in hard and just cheek to cheek, and he says, I feel you, brother. And I don't say that like physical contact, cheek to cheek. I feel you, brother. I feel this energy, and I want to thank you for letting me feel this tonight. And I was like, I'm not crying, you're crying. It was just an awesome moment. It was just a great moment.
So did he say, I'm not saying the physical, or that you're saying
that's what he said?
That's what he said.
He said in my ear, he's like, and I'm not saying physically like our cheeks are touching cheek to cheek. I feel your energy, brother, and I thank you for doing this tonight.
That is so cool. Like,
and you could feel it. Like, you could just feel it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I learned from that. I learned even more listening to you retell it now, that I learned how intentional you were with setting up. How do I create that moment? How do I add value to him, serve him, versus ask, hey, can I get a picture? Hey, can I talk to you? Hey, can I get some advice? You know, I have something for you. And it's a meaningful thing. It's something that you've like clearly thought through, and then like handwritten note in there.
Yeah.
One of the things I teach in my book, I tell a story about Isaac with John Maxwell, but the principle is be unforgettable.
This is one of my favorite stories, by the way.
Yeah. So Isaac writes, we're sitting with John Maxwell in Costa Rica. We're out on the back patio of a steak place at a hotel, right? So you have like the palm trees swaying. It's dusk. And it's like me, John, my son, and then all these successful people, right? And I just watch how John's pouring into my son, like treating him like $1 million,
Intentional.
Totally intentional, eye to eye, friend to friend. In fact, Isaac said to him, this is really a sweet thing. Isaac said, John, he goes, you and I have something in common. And John goes, what's that, Isaac? And he said, we both have amazing dads. He goes, because John's dad was such a huge role model for him. Because Isaac, he said to John, he goes, I was worried at one point in my career that maybe I wouldn't have this rags to riches story. But John doesn't have a rags to riches story. John has this like raised by an unbelievable parents story that then turned into this amazing life.
That's right.
And John told me how much that meant to him. I mean, obviously as the father, like, oh, that's nice that you said that, but it meant a lot to him. So we get back in the elevator and Isaac looks at me the same way Bentley would, total sincere. He goes, Dad, how do I add value to John Maxwell? And I thought to myself, son, you
ask
don't.
that question at that age?
Yeah, I thought you don't. He's 74. You're a kid. What are you going to do to add value to John Maxwell? But he was so sincere with the question that I was like, man, what did we do? So we started thinking. I finally was like, maybe write him a little note. The hotel has a little pad.
Sure, stationary.
Write him a little note.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be really sweet, Long story short, we go through the rest of the trip, and I'd see him pull away with his phone out, and he'd be writing down. I didn't think too much of it at the time. Long story short, he didn't just write John a letter. He wrote every single one of the kind of key people, like probably 10 different letters. One of them he wrote to a guy named Jeff Stewart, who's still a buddy of mine. Jeff owns multiple Keller Williams brokerages out in North Carolina.
Yep.
And Jeff's kind of our age, has young kids. And he came to me, he goes, Justin, he goes, if my boys ever write a letter like your son just wrote to me, he goes, it'll be my proudest day as a father. He goes, it just means so much to me. So anyway, John gets us all together. He and Isaac have this sweet moment with the letter, and he gets us all together, and he tells us this principle about being unforgettable.
Yeah.
Be unforgettable to your customers. Be unforgettable to your clients, to your team, to your employees, to your business partners. Be unforgettable to your spouse, to your kids. Unforgettable. Create unforgettable moments. He pulls out this letter and he goes, Isaac, you're unforgettable. And of all these successful people, Isaac was the unforgettable one.
Yeah.
Because he had intentionally sought out to add value and to serve at a high level. And I think that's one of those unique things you have. Your energy is unforgettable. The intention you set is unforgettable. What a great lesson for all of us listening to set more intention when we have these interactions with our kids. That story of the lunch with your son. My mom, so when my dad had 2 kids when he married my mom, my older sister, older brother. So when they got divorced when I was 12, I was my mom's oldest, right? Yeah. And I remember before my games, she used, as a single mom, used to come take me to, do you remember Sklotsky's Deli?
I do. I absolutely do. Was it the one on 54th? Yes. And I-15? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'd get the turkey bacon sandwich. I put a bunch of mustard on it. It was delicious. So anyway, she would take me there before every game.
Yeah.
A single mom that was just out there, basically working to keep it all together. Super, super special. As you said, that is a really great memory. So share with me, let's go back to like when we were with Isaac.
Okay.
We're in San Diego. I think we were at a Brendan Burchard event.
It was.
Weren't we?
It was.
And by the way, can I make an observation? Have you guys noticed he's quoted Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Robin Sharma? Like, this is someone that's paid the price in personal development.
Yeah, I'll pay the price to get close with them too.
You will.
I will get the proximity. So It's not just me listening to YouTube. Although that's great. I think everyone should be taking, whether that's 10 pages from a book, whether that is YouTube podcast, that is all great. I'll also pay the price
Explain
to get
this concept,
proximity.
by the way. Explain this concept, because my friends, you always want to pay for speed.
Yeah.
And you want to pay for proximity. There is a difference when you're...
There's a complete difference.
Yes. So talk about that, because that's one of the things, a lesson about you that I've absolutely learned.
So every time I do it, my confidence goes up, right? So if there's something...
do it, just so everyone's following what you're saying.
Every time I invest into a mentor, first and foremost, they have to be in the destination that I want to be at. So if it was Brendan Burchard and he says, hey, we're doing a seminar on how to be the best parents, I wouldn't pay a dime for it because the kid, he doesn't have one kid.
Yeah.
So it's like, I wouldn't trade him places.
Yes.
Like maybe I could host that for him. Like it's like, or you or anyone else. So I don't mean I'm the good dad, but like I have to be willing to trade them places first and foremost.
If it comes to marketing,
in
for
that
example,
advice,
or it comes
to like it better be that it's not. I'm not going to ask a Walmart bagger how to make $1 million.
Yes,
like it's just not going to. That you're not going to get anywhere. I want to ask a millionaire how to get to $1 million, right? Because they've been there. So then I'll take that advice and trade places. So that's the first thing. And everyone I've tried to surround myself with, it's because I saw a quality where I'm like, okay, I feel like they're really, really good at that, and I want to learn from that. When I pay to play, meaning sign up for whatever it is to get the highest level, like we weren't just attending the conference, we were in his mastermind. Like we got to hang out with him. And because of that, there's something else that happens, and that is confidence goes through the roof. So if there's any kind of question as entrepreneurs, as anyone in life, sometimes we question ourselves. We have these limiting beliefs. We all have them, just everyone has them at a different degree. And most of our limiting beliefs were caught, not really taught. And it came from just our parents. It comes from leaders growing up, schools,
proximity.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's nothing you could handle. It was just part of growing up. And so you caught these limiting beliefs. By going to there, it set me free. Like I felt like I'd left there and I was like, I can do this. Like I can do this. My dad didn't have rentals. My mom didn't have rentals. I wanted rentals. So I paid to play and I found a guy that had 1,000 doors and I learned from him. And it gave me permission to say, and I can do it too. Where before it was like, well, this is uncharted territory. My parents have never done it, so I don't even know if I can do it. Like there's a limiting belief. So I paid to play for confidence as well. It set me free. All these limiting beliefs, I'd go to the person that did it and I'd meet them in person. I'd be like, and I don't mean this degrading anyway. I'm like, man, you're just a human being. Yeah. If you can do it, I can do it. I'm going to go do it now. And it gave me the permission to say, go.
So if you're listening right now and you've never been willing to pay money to go faster and get proximity, this is a little bit of an invitation to start thinking of money a little different. I want to hear your take on this. You've been a very, very successful investor, specifically in real estate, but in other things as well. By the way, we also have sucked at investing together on a
womp womp.
Yeah, womp womp. That's what's called ego investing.
I think you lost a little bit more than me.
That makes
so
you,
I am grateful that I lost a little bit less than you.
That's absurd. That's what we'd both like call and lament with each other. Yeah, if you hear this and you're like, these guys know it, they never make mistakes. No, we invested in ego with like an ego investment, and then like I'll get around other people was the stupidest investment.
It was dumb. We didn't look at numbers. We didn't look at KPIs.
Oh
we looked at relationships and thought that was what you invest in.
That was absurd. Okay,
only that.
Let's not talk about that one anymore.
Yeah.
I do want to hear your thoughts on this though. People have asked me like, what's the best investment? Is it real estate? Is it oil and gas? Is it Bitcoin? Is it stock market? What's the best investment? My take is, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. My take is the very best investment you'll ever make is an investment in yourself. And I even say it this way, an investment in yourself is always a good investment.
Always.
Like that investment of time to listen to the podcast or read the book, the investment in the book, the investment in going to the event, and then the investment of getting the proximity with people where you can actually, because so when you said so much of the, some of the limiting stuff is caught, not taught, same with the breakthroughs. It's just the proximity. You're like, God, you just see it bigger now. You know,
yes.
Like it opens your mind.
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts on that from an investor. You know, as an investor, the power of investing in yourself first, in this case, is the best investment versus other investments you've done.
Yeah. If someone's like, "Oh, I don't have the money right now," I would say you don't have a choice. Like, invest in yourself first and foremost. Jim Rohn again. Rarely does a man's income exceed their level of personal development. Like that's one of my favorite quotes, meaning we can have money attract to us if we're just willing to become the person that's worthy of the investment or the return that we're looking for, where the world has it backwards. And everyone at school growing up, it's like, I want to make a lot of money. And it's always about the chase. And you're always chasing money. And Jim Rohn broke it down so simple. No. Just become someone better and money will just attract to you. Like, just get ready. It's just a direct mirror of who you are. If you're willing to become someone great, get ready. I shared this just recently today. If you have this empire you're building, your kids get to the point where you're going to be gone. Your kids are going to inherit everything. The only way I'm letting that happen is if my kids also do the work to become like me and Wendy, that's what acquired the wealth. It wasn't we were lucky, we hit jackpot and we just got all this wealth. And so I'm willing to pass it on to whoever I want. Because me and Wendy were able to work on ourselves to become someone better, we acquired what we've acquired. And I believe this goes, I mean, if we're going to go philosophical too, God the same way. He wants us to have everything he has. He says, I will give you it all. You're joint heirs with me. I'll give you everything. But what does he require? For us to become more like him every single day. We can't even fathom to manage and do what he does if we're not becoming better. So why would he bless us with everything he has? Nor would I give Bentley or Kenley or Hayden or Harper everything I have if they're not becoming better individuals every single day. They've got to become. And then that mom and dad will be like, I'm gladly leaving this behind because you guys became incredible individuals. And that is why you're getting this inheritance.
When I see you with Wendy, when I see Wendy by herself, by the way, Wendy is special. Like she's so beautiful. That's the way I describe Wendy. Not just like physically beautiful. She's just a beautiful freaking human being. Like just got this like soul that just emanates out of her. Inside out, like her eyes sparkle. She's got a huge smile. I feel like she's tough as nails. I don't think Wendy's a pushover. I think she's got a lot of strength.
That's coming time. That's becoming. That's
really?
Come over time.
Because to me, I don't look as Wendy as like, yeah, you're gonna just trample on Wendy. Like, no, I think Wendy's tough and resilient. I'm not suggesting that you guys have the perfect marriage and no one's ever had a stressful day, but you guys have a fantastic marriage, right? Share with us just some of the principles you live by from a marriage perspective. Some of the maybe habits or routines that you guys have built over the years that you feel like has helped to foster and harness that.
Yeah.
And then what you feel like you do to help her shine, to help that, this glow that she has, come out.
And this comes in stages, right? A couple that prays together stays together. So it's like trying to find always a time that you always pray together. The big one is the non-negotiables of date night. Like date night's a must. We don't miss that. And so we may have to change the day during the week, but we don't miss date night. That's our time. Some of the things we do is...
How did you guys do that when the kids were young and businesses young?
Justin, we were broke.
You don't have a ton of cash and you're out there hustling. How did you guys do that kind of stuff?
That was the greatest gift. I call that the gift. Like that was the greatest times of my life, even though they were the hardest times of my life. Like, holy cow, take me back to memory lane. My parents would watch our kids. I'd just left my dad's business because in 2008, the market crashed. Warren Buffett owned all the RC Willys, but he says, we're not remodeling stores or building new stores. We're just going to bring on, I think her name was Paige, like just market so people come in the stores and buy furniture, but we're not remodeling. So my dad's business just like overnight. And he was willing to keep paying me and I just couldn't do it. So I went to them. I said, hey, I won't be working for you. I got a job vinyl fencing. Fast forward a year later, I opened an insurance agency and I only made $19,000 my first year. We had 2 kids.
Yeah, this would have been, how old were you at this point?
We were, so this is end of 2010. So I was 26.
The point I'm trying to point out, this isn't like you're 18. This is like 26. I'm a dad with kids and a
2
wife
kids,
and
one
like,
on the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have a mortgage.
The pressure's on at this point.
Yeah, we had a mortgage. Everything else was paid off because that was by design. Wendy's like, we don't have kids until we're out of debt. And so she worked and we just buckled down and we got rid of debt. And our first kid was in 2008. And we got married in 2004, so 4 years after we got married. But we got out of debt completely except for our home. That to me was unfathomable because everyone had a mortgage, right? And so where was I going to go with this?
Yeah, 19,000.
19,000.
That year.
Date nights, you have to be willing to live like no other.
I have to interrupt you.
Right?
I have to say this. I want to hear your take on this. I don't want to leave the debt part yet because I work with a lot of younger couples. Yeah. And they're 24, 23, 25, having a baby. They're succeeding in their careers, and there's this pressure that either they put on each other, the wife puts on the husband feels like he has to with his friends, whatever. Where they're like getting the biggest pickup truck and the fastest car and the biggest house and the biggest trip to Italy, And I'm like, yo, guys, what are you guys doing? I mean, I'm like telling them like, yo, I don't know if I sound like an old head or something, but like, no, this is the wrong strategy. Like you want to save these dollars and you want to get yourself out of debt, like minimize your expense load, right? I want to hear your philosophy on that.
Oh, it's absolutely a must. On top of that, we had to sacrifice so we had some cushion in the bank. So we sold her Honda Accord and bought a $1,000 Honda Civic. That's what I drove, where the bumper, I just told this story recently, bumper was held on with baling wire. I went down the freeway at 55. It flew off and almost nailed the car behind me. Like, this is how crappy this car was.
And again, this is not when you're 16. This is like a grown
26.
man. Yeah.
26. Wendy drove a $2,500 Honda Odyssey that was forest green that came from Canada in kilometers, and it had like 250,000 kilometers. We had no idea what that even meant in miles. Had no clue. But this is what we had to do. So that's the other thing that I think is if you're whatever you want in life, be a great steward of what little you have, even if you're like, I don't have a lot, so how do I do it? You do without. We didn't keep up with the Joneses. We had people in our neighborhood, in our church, they would ask us, they're like, hey, do you guys want to go out to dinner? We're like, oh my gosh, so sorry. We just barely ate. We hadn't eaten, but we couldn't afford to go out to dinner. So when my mom would come over and watch our kids, we would go down the street and we'd drive down the street. She thought we were going out to dinner, and we'd just park a couple streets over and walk out and just hold each other's hands and go through West Jordan Park and just talk and dream. That was the other one. We were like,
I was about to ask you, do you feel like you had an abundant mindset at this point?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. I didn't think I was going to be losing forever.
So this was not like scarcity mindset. Hold on to every dollar. This is like, no, big mindset. We're just being prudent at this point in our
That's
career.
right. That's right. And we helped, like we would dream big. We would, Ed Milet calls it touching your dreams. We would drive through neighborhoods and be like, one day, that's the house. But if you don't touch your dreams, you'll never see that ever becoming a reality. So even though this was like, who knows, that could be 10 years down the road, 20 down the road, but we're gonna go touch our dreams right now. So we'd drive through parade of homes. We're like, yeah, one day we're like, this is gonna be, we can see this happening, so that we could visualize actually going somewhere and getting something done. A person that doesn't know their dreams and doesn't visit their dreams will never accomplish their dreams. And so we try to just make sure we touched our dreams often enough, even though it was going to be years down the road. We dream big. One of the things that changed everything for our relationship, when you say one of the things in marriage, we made a promise. So we did a prayer and we prayed to God and we said, when, like as if we already are that person. We said, when we're succeeding and money's coming in, it's not going to be just to bless our lives. It's going to bless other people's lives. And we want to show you that we're willing to do it now. And it couldn't have been more than a couple weeks later. We had $500 in the bank. Her brother goes on a mission. The parents are going through a bankruptcy, so they had no money. They had as much as they could. This is her folks. Yeah. All that was left is a bike, and it was $500. And I looked at Wendy. I said, "We said we'd try us." And we said it in the prayer. Like, let's buy the bike. And Wendy's like, we did. So we bought the bike, drain our account to $0. And we do that. Next day, I'm in insurance. This is still during the insurance times. This guy comes in and says, hey, I just need my business insurance quoted. And it was already too good to be true. I was like, in my mind, I was like, this is closing. Yeah. Like, this is like, show me and I'll take care of you. Just take care of people and I'll take care of you. That lets me know, first and foremost, for those out there saying, like, how much do you have to do? I think if you're just there's more to it. You still got to act. But when you take care of people, there is a power out there, whether they're God-believing people I am, that comes back in tenfold. And this has always been the case. This guy gets his insurance quoted and it's $23,000. All I've done is home insurance and auto insurance. These are like $500 policies. I'm like stumbling, like I don't even know how to present $23,000 quote. Like, this doesn't even make sense, because I'm like, I don't even know if this is a good deal. I've never quoted anything like this. Like, this is nuts. I said, here's what it is. And if you want, we can get on with the underwriter so we can go over the coverage, because I quite frankly don't even know what some of these things are. He's like, this looks good. This looks better than my current policy. Let's go with it. Well, that paid me a 20% commission on year one. Like, it was like a $4,000 commission that coincidentally he walked by our office and said, I'm just going to go to someone I've never known before to quote my commercial business policy. Coincidence? I just don't believe in coincidence. Like, that was a direct answer to staying committed to a promise that we committed, that we will help people even when we don't have nothing. That's the other thing, is I don't want to be the guy saying, when I have money, I'll bless people's lives.
Wow.
Bless it now, because you got to start the habit today so that it will just magnify as you get more money. But if you don't do it today, I'm convinced you won't do it later.
Do you know what's so interesting is this idea of like saving money today. So it's like when I have more, I'll save more.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you gotta like save the dime or the penny out of the dime.
Yeah.
Or else you're not going to save the 10 million out of the 100 million. That's hard. That's a hard principle. Do you want to know the harder principle is to give. You were giving when you gave down to $0.
Had nothing.
That is like faith. That is like a gulp of like, yo, I'm actually gonna like put my money where my mouth is from a faith perspective.
That's how bad I wanted to succeed though, Justin. Like that's how bad I wanted to succeed. That I'm like, I'll give it away. I want to show you, like, I'll do it. I will do it. Like I'll do it. And we did it.
Okay, I want to hit on something. I hope that as you guys are hearing this, I hope something stands out to you. It's burning fire. It's burning desire. So like I coach my little son AJ's basketball team.
Love
his
that.
little like junior jazz,
Love
like
that.
kind of like a rec league.
Yep.
And I told these little boys, I said, listen, I kind of pull these kids in. I'm like, listen, I want 3 things from you guys this year. I go, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna work hard, whatever. There's 3 things I want. I said, they're the 3 things you can't teach. I said, I want heart, I want hustle, and I want hunger. Like hunger.
Yeah.
You know? And so we would do a little cheer before like the game or at practice. I'd be like, we have, and they'd yell out, heart. And I'd be like, we always. They're like, hustle. Then I'd be like, we are. Like when I made them run sprints, I'd be like, we are hungry. And that was their thing to start running their sprints.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, you have heart, you have hunger, and you have hustle. You haven't lost it even as you become, more and more.
You just use it differently.
But you can hear it. Like you can hear that. And my friends, it's what's called like a burning desire. It's like Brendan Burchard in High Performance Habits, he said that if you tap a high performer on the shoulder and you say, what's your latest goal? What's your latest dream? They can answer the question 7 to 10 seconds faster than everyone else. Why? It's because it's on the tip of their tongue. It's a burning desire. It's something to think about all the time.
Yeah.
As you hear your story is fraught with just burning desire and heart and hunger and the willingness to hustle. And Wendy too. So in other words, I don't want people to miss this. Like as you hear this, make sure that it's hitting you right in the face of like, how did he become successful? Like, let me take notes. It's stuff that you got to catch that he hasn't said, which is the heart, hunger, and hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. And Wendy, again, you nailed something perfect. I wouldn't be who I am without Wendy. Like there's no question. There's just no question. For younger audience, because I know you've got people that follow you, that you host incredible events here for youth, and I respect you and honor you for doing that. To you youth, I want you to understand who you marry matters. Yeah. It matters. That's the biggest decision you can make right now in your life is who you marry. That's been everything for me, Justin.
Yeah, and there's no doubt.
I sit there and I'm like, I have to get better because that's who I'm married to. Like I have to get better. So it's like it keeps me on my A game. Like it makes it that much better for me to push forward.
I want you to hit on this because I think this is important in marriage for sure, but it's probably important as a friend. It's probably important as a business partner. Like I tell my girls, I said, no marrying projects.
Yeah.
Don't go rescue everybody. Don't go marry the guy that's just falling apart, but you really love him. He's so sweet. And it's like, if
I feel like I can change his life.
Change him. I'm like, no, girls. I want you to marry someone that like, they inspire you to be the best version of yourself, and you inspire them to be the best version of themselves. And like you're lifting them up, and they're lifting you up. Because I feel like if Wendy was here, she'd be like, "Oh, Cody," she'd be like, "You inspire me too." So in other words, you guys both are lifting.
This is true,
right? The rising tide is pulling people up. Same thing with friends. Like you want to be around friends that like your friends like making you want to be better.
That's right.
And guess what? You're making your friend want to be freaking better and awesome. And you're making your business partner like your business like. Cody pulls you up. He's got skills that you don't have, and you pull him up, and he's got skills he doesn't have, and the rising tide of everybody. I want to hear your thoughts on. It's funny. I was talking to my son. I also teach his church class too. I'm like
I absolutely love this though.
AJ's life.
Get involved.
And teach these little 11 and 12-year-olds. I'm sitting there in church. I go, all right, guys. Here's the deal. These kids are 11, right, and 12. I go, most important decision you're going to make your whole life. I go, one decision. It's the most important one. It's who you marry.
Yeah.
I said, marry a freaking awesome girl. Like, marry a girl that's awesome. Be an awesome. And I said, this is what I said, and this is my logic flow. How do you pick an awesome girl to marry? I said, you date who you marry. I said, date awesome people.
Yeah.
I said, how do you date awesome people? By being awesome. Like, be a great kid,
That's right.
Good vibes, and you're just a good kid. I said, you do those 3 things. Be a good kid, date good people, marry someone awesome. So your life's probably going to go pretty darn well.
That's right.
So let's shift gears to... At this point of your career, first of all, share with us what you're doing because you crushed insurance. We kind of bounced around there a little bit, which I love.
It was still tough. Like it was still like, even though it was like 6 figures, we're talking low 6 figures. Like it wasn't It wasn't anything to write home about. Why I got into real estate was because it was still rough. Like it was still tough. There were still months that were super, super hard.
Did you start in wholesaling? Like right out of the
That's how I
gates?
started in 2015. Yeah, it was I went
Explain
to
wholesaling. If I don't know real estate at all, explain wholesaling.
Wholesaling is you find the off-market deal, and they're usually like bum homes. Like they're just bad homes, right? They're homes that no one wants. They're the ones that could have meth in them. They're the ones that are ran down. They're dilapidated. They're just not in great shape. And it could be maybe mom and dad pass away and you inherit their home and you're like, geez, I don't have money to fix this up and put it back on the market. We're an awesome candidate. We're like, we'll come in, buy cash. We'll do the fix and flip. So we're able to get homes at 40, 50, 60 cents on the dollar versus paying 70, 80, 90, 100%
and a bunch you fixed and flipped, but then a bunch you guys have held on to.
Bunch we've held on to for rentals. We can fix and flip, or wholesaling is where I just find the deal. And let's say when it's all fixed up, when all the stuff is taken care of, it's worth 200 grand, but I got it under contract at 100,000. I can come to you, Justin, and say, hey, I've got this contract that allows you to buy this home at 123 Main Street, and I will let you close on it in lieu of me for $110,000. And so you're like, you look at it and you're like, man, yeah, I want this deal. You go to the title company with 110 grand. The check gets cut for 100 grand to the homeowner. A 10 grand check gets cut to me for finding the deal. Mm-hmm. And then I move on to the next deal. You rehab it, sell it in the future.
And you took that concept of wholesaling and built, first of all, a huge wholesaling business yourself.
Correct.
But then built a huge wholesaling business teaching people how to wholesale.
Yeah, so I ran, it was the largest coaching program in the nation at the time. It was Wholesaling Inc. So I grew that and we sold it in 2020. And that's when we went all in to, instead of just teaching people how to do their first deal, like so many people want to have a scalable business, one that's $1 million business. Well, our coaching program wasn't built for that. It was to show you how to do your first deal. And then after that, you just really never got to see them or catch up with them, or we didn't have a product to keep going. So when we sold that, me and Mark built a business called Joe Homebuyer.
And explain what Joe, this is the one when we started, I went and spoke for, as you guys were first kind of kicking it off. Explain what it is and what's kind of happening in the business. Because even though it's new, you guys are, just cranking already.
Yeah, it's got a great growth, but it comes from the know-how first. Like that was the beautiful thing. It wasn't just like we hope this works. It's like, no, we know this works. Now we have a mission to go bless other people's lives that want to be part of this. And so it's mission driven versus money driven. And the money's just a byproduct of how well you just serve these people, right? So Joe Homebuyer is just a real estate investing franchise that they can buy into that shows them step A to Z how to find an off-market deal and make the money they need to make through 3 exit strategies. Either wholesale it, like that, what I just broke down, either fix and flip it, like HGTV talks about, or keep it as a rental and have passive income coming in. We're now at 95 franchisees across the nation, and our goal is to grow this to 1,000 franchisees and just keep this thing going and just keep the culture, the first and foremost, the priority of what we protect. We bring on people. It could grow faster. We turn down a lot of people because it's like we have to protect culture. If they don't fit culture, it's already a no to us.
Why is culture? I'm curious as people are building teams and building businesses. Why is culture so important?
For example,
because everyone says that
it's heavy. Yeah, it's heavy in
why?
sales. It's heavy sales. So would I just take anyone because they're, oh man, I was the number one salesperson. Then all of a sudden you're talking to them, you're like, dude, you're in cell block 6. You're in prison. Like, how, you know what I mean? There's a lot of great salesmen in prison right now. It's like, it doesn't mean you're culturally going to fit just because you can sell. I'm going to bring you on, right? Culture's so big because me and Mark had to break down, why is it that we win? I think that's a great question for anyone to ask themselves is, why do you win? We came up with our 4 values, and that was humble, meaning we always have a white belt mentality. We don't know it all. We're always going to be lifelong learners. Hunger. So I love when you're talking about hunger. That's something that you really can't train, to be completely honest. They got to come with that. Tony Robbins, when the guy said, hey, I can move and shake you anytime. I'll get on the phone. I'll bring you up to a 10, but 2 weeks later, you're going to be back down to a 6 until you do the work. Like you've got to become a 10 on your own. Yeah. And then honest goes without saying. When you're dealing with people and they're in a stressful situation, you're going to do everything you can to do the most for them. So this ends up being a big win for them. And then byproduct is it can be a win for you too. And then heart for others is we treat every customer like you're going on an appointment. It's your mom and dad saying, hey, we have to move in 7 days, or hey, we're going through foreclosure, or hey, we're going through a bankruptcy, or hey, we've got to move because of X, that I wouldn't be like, hey, mom and dad, how many rooms was your home again? No, I'd be like, mom, dad, fill me in. Like, you don't have groceries this week? Do you know how many times we've bought groceries and we still don't get the deal? But it was the right thing to do because there's 3 kids sitting there and they're like, we don't have money to put food on the table. And we're like, we're going to buy it for you, but we can't sell our home to you. That's fine. Don't worry about it. And we're fine walking away from that, but we do good to others.
Do you remember when were you at the Brendan Burchard when Bo Eason spoke? Was it
Puerto Rico? Which one was it?
No. So Bo Eason is like a professional speaker guy,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So I go to his event in San Diego, and in my profession at the time, this is 5 years ago or so, one of the big companies in my profession basically got rid of their entire sales force.
Yeah.
Right? This is like a big shakeup. It's a big
Yeah.
deal. And I'm in San Diego, and I get a text from one of the guys, and I had met him years earlier, but didn't know him at all. But
Yeah.
when I say a text, a Facebook message.
Sure.
He goes, hey, look, I have a team of like 10,000 people, and we're looking to make a move, and we need some, we're looking at our options, whatever. He said, can we do a call? So I'm literally standing at the gate. I do a call with him, and I'm a couple hours into it, by the way. So that like he's 10 hours or 6 hours in since he heard the news. So he's been on the phone with a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? So I get on the phone with him, and he goes, look, like my phone's just been blowing up all day. This is literally, I start to call, hey, this is Justin, this is so-and-so. He goes, my phone's been blowing up all day. He goes, can you get right to the point? Tell me why your company's the best. Tell me why you're the best. But can you make it really quick? And I said, I'm happy to share with you what we're doing. I said, but do you mind if I just kind of start with this? I said, how are you doing, bro? I said, how are you feeling? I go, you just lost your whole freaking business. Your team's freaking out. I go, I've been in a similar situation. I said, tell me how you're feeling. He just like melted, and he just like all the air came out, and he just goes, it's really stressful. And we started having just a human conversation.
Yeah.
Not a quick pitch.
Yeah.
Not a like, oh, we can offer you whatever, and our compensation's better, and just human.
Yeah.
Anyway, he ended up joining. I mean, we did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue together. I mean, I'd have to think about it, but we did a ton. Hit that team combined. We did a lot of business. And he said to me, I've heard him say this on stage and stuff. He goes, do you want to know why I ended up choosing this business and ended up choosing Justin? He goes, he was the only person that said, how are you doing? And it's this thing of like, if you're looking at your mom, you're not like, okay, how many bedrooms is a square feet? And what are you willing to take? No, you wouldn't do that. If it's your mom, you'd have empathy.
Be relationship.
And you'd be like, how are you doing? Like,
That's right.
Like, how can I serve you? And my friends, that service to many leads to greatness.
That's right.
It's like, it sounds almost Pollyanna, like, no, businesses are, no, listen. There's people that do it that way. And you can also lead with a heart, and you can lead with a desire to add value and serve others. And you can create true kind of win-win situations. Absolutely. And win-win scenarios.
Absolutely.
And you can lay your head at night on your pillow and say, not only am I making $1, but like I'm serving and adding value to people. And like the world's a better place because I'm here, because I'm doing this work.
Absolutely.
Love that. Well, listen, I mean, dude, first of all, this went way different than
different, right?
Freaking love it, dude.
But I love that.
Dude,
There's no bullet points on any of our notepads that even match this.
No, I love it. So let me say this. There's an old hymn that says, each life that touches ours for good. That's the name of the hymn. Each life that touches ours for good. You're a life that's touched mine for good.
Oh, thank you.
Like you're a life that's like touched my wife's life for good, my son's life for good, like my family's life for good. Like you are the kind of person that people are better because they know you. Like your sincerity, your enthusiasm, your raw, enthusiasm, your big hugs, like what's up, guys? Like just your passion. Like I'm a better person because Cody Hofhine's in my life, dude. And so just to have this time, together is really special for me. I really appreciate you doing it.
Thank you. And I can say the exact same. Again, Bentley's down here. I didn't know the other podcast episodes. I said, hey, Bentley, I'm yanking out of school. Like there's someone I want you to meet. I didn't know the other two. It wasn't for them. It's for you, Justin. So I got a kid out of school, a 15-year-old, because it meant more to me, and I saw a blessing in his life for him being down here than being at school. So that should explain just how much I think of you, my friend.
Love it, bro. Nothing but love, nothing but respect. Thank you so much. My friends, listen, if this episode helps you to be better, do you know what I'm saying? Like you're just like, I'm better because I came, or this is you start thinking in your life, who are the lives that touch my life for good? Who are the ones that make me a better person? Make sure you share this one with those people that do that for you as well. So we'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast. We're going to continue to show up and add value and serve you at a high level, but we'll bring people, that are unique like Cody, that show up with that energy and that passion and that wisdom that you can hear and that hunger that you can hear. So one other thing, our podcast is still new, we're still growing, and there's this reciprocal way that the economy works, right? If you get value, will you give us a review? The reviews help us to rank and help us to, share our message and to inspire and add value to more people. So if we're serving you, so in other words, like the reciprocal benefit would be if you're getting value from it, then make sure you give us a review. That's your way of saying, hey, it's your tip. It's your way of saying thank you. And we appreciate it. It helps us to add value and serve more people. There's that old saying that says evil prevails when good men, good women do nothing. We're going to try and be a positive force for good in the world. And so if you join with us, make sure you give us a review, subscribe. And that's the kind of stuff that will help us share the message as well. Appreciate you guys.